Outside, there is a storm raging, which is a very good time to sit down and read a book. Now, welcome to the Self-Harming Pacifist, the Zoom sessions, chapter 3. And obviously, in this video, I'll be reading chapter 3. I hope you've caught up. We've got chapters 1 and 2 already online. And this is from the Self-Harming Pacifist, which is a book I wrote about my experiences when, well, I still have depression, but my experiences when I decided to sort of come to terms with who I was and come off of medication. That's where I am now. This was written in 2020, published in 2020, written a little bit before that. So this is chapter 3, which is titled Untitled. Enjoy and welcome, and thank you for being here. Cancelled without prejudice is a term used in passports by governments all around the world. It's a stamp slammed into passports when said passport is cancelled before it expires. In a way, your homeland is saying to you that you are no longer considered able to comply with the terms of your country, and you are no longer welcome to act as a representative. I have no issue with people having their passports cancelled. That works for me. But what do they think this means when your own form of identity is described as cancelled without prejudice? Sort of sounds a bit like a George Michael song. These are the people who voted by us to take care of our home and our services, to negotiate with other countries, to ensure peace is maintained and humanity behaves as one for the good of the planet. That's the theory of it anyway. The reality, obviously, is very different. But I hope what most people living in the world, I hope that that's what they would like. Can we cancel without prejudice our governments and nominate a visionary to reach out to the others? Here in the UK, we have a choice of 2 political parties, much like the US model. We may have other parties which pop up from time to time for an election, yet their power is limited, and for the most part of the years of cold wilderness in between elections, these voices seldom get heard. The trouble with the idea of narrowing it down to 2 is that you end up giving the majority a choice between okay and so-so. I would like a choice between amazing and wonderful, beautiful and marvelous, exciting and insert your own adjective there. The UK sits on past glories and lives and breathes history, which means that it is stuck. I really feel living in the UK that although it is the land where I have been born and raised, I'm not part of it. I don't think like Englanders. I don't see England as a shining example for the world. I see it as a backward land living off industrial revolution thinking. It has not evolved. History is history. And celebrate that if you want, but it is not relevant to now. Borders and migrants are a thing of the past. We live on Earth. This planet is our home. I find arguments over controls and passport colours and people's colours just sort of banal and petty. Embrace everyone. Britain has a history of inclusion as much as a history of slavery. Acknowledge it all and move forward. welcome everyone in and let's focus our energies on the environment and poverty. Then they open Parliament and you have men in tights banging a door with a golden gavel from 16 something or other. That's not forward thinking. That's up its own arse. And all of that affects my mental well-being. Anxiety is on the rise alongside hatred and separatism. I have a few words for those of you who may be living with anxiety and depression. You could have a steam train if you just laid down your tracks. You could have an aeroplane flying if you bring your blue sky back. All you do is call me. I'll be anything you need. In the living room sits a clock. It lies dormant on the table, which holds up a lamp. The seconds that emanate from the small face issue without a care and serve as a timely reminder that soon death will come. The face stares out, watching, listening, waiting, gathering information while it smiles playfully at you between the hours of 9 and 3. The late afternoon and evening turn this face into more of a grimace, reflecting the demons that rise as the blanket of night sweeps over the landscape. The clock never falters. The pendulum is impenetrable. As the fog rolls in from the ocean, arcing across the coastline of your soul, as your memories sweep across the sea of regret and gather over the space of reality that lies ahead like a long road, the world starts to turn upside down. The ticking clock can anger and calm at the same time. Time. A healer and a wound. Here's a tip: clock management. If you want to be happy, please look at 10 to 2. If you wish to be sad, start this at 20 past 8. Midnight, as midday, offers a phallic symbol which empowers some while destroying others. 6:30 is the ultimate low. Don't think about going to 6:30. The 1980s have become cool again. In the 1980s, it was cool to like the 1950s style music, like the music of Eddie Cochran in the Levi's adverts, or Muddy Waters, Percy Sledge, and all of that. These ads inspired a love of 50s style, spurred on by school productions of Grease, and then record companies began producing compilation albums of soul and blues. Life comes round and moves in circles. This is both a blessing and a curse. While it is wonderful to see the things that made an influence me in my teenage years come back to being cool, this can be bittersweet. Just a thought back to that time and the brain flips through images of the last 30 years, which can be overwhelming, melancholic, joyful, and lamentable at the same time. As we get older, the number of mental images grows. Some would call this data overload. Youth never belongs to the youth because it is borrowed from somebody else's. Yet perhaps we should all revel in it, because for one moment in our lives, those of us who come from the 80s are at a point of being the source of truthful knowledge for that decade. An imaginary high five to everyone out there who can lay claim to this and enjoy it, because soon the 90s will be the thing, and that is when I lumbered into being some impression of an adult, losing the innocence of life and waking up to the gruesome reality that dreams are not actually the things that others want you to chase after. And now, 20 years after hitting alcohol to try to keep my dreams alive in my head and block out the harsh reality of Britain and its capitalist control of the masses, I have come to the realization that dreams are the only things that you own. So never let go of them. You can be an adult in the world and continue to fight for your dreams. Yes, there are people out there who will cry for you to fail, who try to talk you down, who tell you to get a proper job, whatever that is. I mean, giving the best part of your life to an organization who doesn't give a shit about you is supposed to be proper living. There are always people out there talking you out of doing something because they are too scared to follow the same example. All I ask is this. What would that 10-year, 12-year, 15-year-old self who still dwells inside you say if you asked? Sometimes looking around with those eyes and seeing where you are is the most scary and eye-opening experience. It can also be a true idea of figuring out what it is that you want from life. After years of searching and stumbling, years of turning away and trying to forget, years of regrets and missed chances, of falling into dark pits and trying to claw back out, of being lost in a forest and unable to see the directions, a conclusion has been reached. Born of internal conversations between all of me, from the day I was born to the person staring at me in the mirror at that moment in time. A simple statement of intent that carries me through the turmoil and struggles that continue to dominate my thoughts and try to wrestle control. An instruction to myself when those demons surface for air and want to ingratiate themselves back into my world. A way forward for myself when I decide on which way to turn, and a mantra that drives me towards chasing the things that I want and need in my life. I want to be happy now.